Hello, today I'm going to show you how to convert faces from eFootball 24, 23 and 22 if you have the files to PES 2021. And I'm going to show you some of the stuff you need first. You need some conversion tools from Ukiya FaceMaker. You can message him here or on Twitter or Facebook, and you get a link and you can download it, and then you get the password for it as well once you've made the donation. These tools allow you to convert the faces a lot easier, and it's definitely worth supporting this guy because he's converted a lot of faces and he's very helpful, and he spent a lot of his time just helping me fix some faces I've made in the past. You need the NVIDIA texture tools exporter. You can use the Intel one as well. I like the NVIDIA one because it's CUDA accelerated as well. I don't think it makes that much of a difference, but yeah, you need this to save files as DDS so the game can read them in the correct format. This mesh data transfer for Blender, this is an add-on, and you want the 1.4. Sorry, I think you need the new one, and then you can try both of them basically. I can't remember which one, but you'll see what it looks like in the program. You can get this for free, and then you can put in, or you can make a donation and get the email link, and you can download it. You need this PES and hair face modifier. Make sure to use 2.8x to install it correctly, and then it has instructions. And that's an add-on for Blender 2.92, which you also need. Once you have these programs, you need the ID of the player, and you need the files, the textures to be extracted. The textures that you need, you can basically copy them after. The way you extract them, I have a different video on how to extract the textures from eFootball using UE model viewer, and just copy everything. There should be everything with its ID, and yeah, just copy it basically. And then you need a new file that's empty. This is just a file called eFootball conversions on my desktop, and just paste this here. You don't need the eye occlusion textures, so I'm just going to delete it. And then the conversion tools from Ukiya you get are here. This is what you get. You get the base SRM file. You also need Photoshop. I'm just going to open this in Photoshop. It looks like this. And then you also need the ID, and in here there's a dummy player, and you get some textures and an FPK file to load in Blender. Just to show you what's in here. So there's some dummy stuff, some default textures that you need. So I'm going to copy this. You also get a Blender file which you use later. And go back to the folder and then paste it here. And I'm going to give this the ID of the player. So I want to convert Seiyu Maikuma. I'm going to give him the ID here. Then you open every file apart from the PSK file. So the textures, you open them in Photoshop. So I'm just going to press enter. And having the Intel or the NVIDIA plugin for DDS allows you to open these and save them as well. So the first thing you need to do is match the color of the SRM files. So that's the roughness and specular maps. They both read the same file from the shaders. And you want to go to adjustments, match color, and then source. This is the file that we opened earlier. And then save it as face SRM. Or hair parts, sorry, this is hair parts. So this should be I'm going to do the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-S to save new. Like this. And then you want to make sure this is on BC3 or DXT5. Then normal, I'm just going to save it. I'm going to delete this because this is the mistake I made at the start by saving the wrong file name. Control W to close the tab. This is just a face NRM file, so just save as face NRM. Same settings. Again, hair parts NRM. So this is the normal map. This gives the face like grooves and stuff, and like kind of shadows if there's like, I don't know, like scars or anything like that. The hair DTGA files is the target file in eFootball, but it's also a DDS file in PES 2021. So you save this as hair parts BSM alpha. This is the base map, and then alpha implies it has an alpha channel. Save it. And both normal, same settings. Now you need to create the translucency maps. So select the alpha channel. So usually it looks like this. Go to channels, delete the alpha channel, and then you need a filter. So you go other high pass. Set this to 3. Hit OK. Adjustments, and you go to levels, and then set the middle level to 0.3, sorry, 0.3 like this. Okay, and now you save this as hair parts trm. Save it as the DDS file again. This time just the color, you don't want the alpha channel. Save it. And you do the same here. So I'm just going to use the shortcuts for the filters and the levels, so I don't have to click it. But this is the base map, so I'm just going to save that first. Now from the same file, this is where you do the translucency map. So delete this. Control Alt F to load the last filter. Control L to bring up the levels adjustments. And even though this saves you a little bit of time, when you do this lots of times, it ends up saving you a little bit of time every single time, which is good. Color, save, there we go. And then the face translucency, the face roughness and specular map, sorry, adjustments, match color, PNG, okay. Save it as face SRM. Save, there we go. So now we're gonna sort this by date modified. So the ones we want are the last 8. So just gonna control copy and then paste here into the WinDX11. As you can see, these are the 8 files we just converted. So we don't need Photoshop anymore, so we can close this or minimize it if you want to use it after. And now we need Blender. And here you need the final conversion tool. There's a file called neck.blend, or I called it neck.blend. It's basically the Blender file, and you open it and it looks like this. And it basically gives you the eFootball weights of the mouth, the head, and then this neck thing is just to align your face if you want to do that. Import PSK. So I'm going to go to the folder, and this is the PSK model from eFootball that we exported, and I'm just going to save it as the ID. So you can press F2 to go to the rename option, or you can right click and then rename, change it that way. But I'm just going to save it as the ID and then import this, and it's going to go down here. And you want to get rid of these skeleton lines. I don't know what they're actually called, but whatever it is, it loads in with it selected. So when it loads, as soon as you import it, just press delete and it's going to disappear. Now click on it, and if you hold G and Z, you can move it, and when you move it, it will only move in one axis, which is the Z axis. That's why you hold G to move stuff and then Z to lock the axis at the same time. So yeah, once you have it here, you hold GZ and then you can hold the point here, snap it to the bottom of the neck, make sure it's on vertex closest move, and then this is turned on, this blue thing, snap. And I'm going to use the numpad to rotate the camera. You can play around with it to learn all the commands, and GY locks the movement to the y-axis. So this doesn't have to be perfect, it's just approximate. But you can click on the neck, press H to hide it, or you can press this I. And then 1 resets the camera view on the numpad. And now you want to select it, object shade smooth here, and rename it and just delete the MO. Now you want to delete all the vertex groups. You want to rename the UV maps to UV map, and this is important, this needs to be named correctly so the game can read it and the conversion is correct. And then scroll down to the vertex colors. You want to rename this one to edit, and then create a new one called anim for the animation. Just select edit and not UV map after. After you've done this, if you want to get rid of the default animation, so the hair, you can do this here by vertex painting it white. You can press Shift K and that just does this. I'm just going to leave it for now. And after this, you need to delete the eye models from the eFootball model, because you're going to use the ones from the conversion tools from Ukiya. And you just press tab to go into edit mode, or you can go edit mode here. Make sure everything's deselected, so just left click off the character of the model and then press assign, select. And as you can see, his eyes have been selected. You can't really see it, but if you press G, you can see they've been selected. Press delete and then delete faces, and then go head oral, select, head teeth, select, press P to separate, and separate by selection. Now you need to import the weights from the models, and this is why the conversion tools are important, because you won't have this without the conversion tools. Active UV, and you want to source the mouth one from here. So this is the mouth for the mouth model. Transfer vertex groups, and then click here again. So this shows you the vertex groups of the head. And then active UV again, source it from the head or the neck. This model is just one thing. Transfer vertex groups. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure UV maps and edit are both selected, just to avoid any problems. Now go back into edit mode, and then press C, and this brings up this little brush, and just drag over the neck a little bit to select partially the neck. And if you press escape and then Control L, you can select just the face. This is important because you're going to separate it again by selection. And you go back to the vertex groups of the original, of the first file, or the first mesh, sorry. Click local, and then delete the source, and then you want to source it from itself, or from the neck rather. And then you need to go back into object mode to be able to transfer it. And now you want to join it, so you can join it using Control J, or you can use this menu here. And then go back in. You want to go into weight paint, and then weights, smooth, select all groups here, 0.0001, so that's 3 zeros. And then normalize all, make sure this is on lock active, is ticked off. And now you want to separate it by material, so you need to go into edit mode, press A to select everything once the mesh is selected, and then separate by material. So sometimes there'll be a hair mesh, and there'll be a hair transfer mesh, which will be needed to be combined at this step. But you don't need to join anything here since he doesn't have a beard. And just select the hair mesh here, and then go to the vertex groups, and lock the head vertex group, or the head vertex. Lock this here. Delete all unlocked groups. Now you can unlock head, because basically you wanted to delete everything apart from the SK head. And once you have this, you go into edit mode, select everything, make sure that you have the hair selected still for edit mode, press A, that'll select it, set the weight to 1, assign it. Now you've done the first half of the conversion, so you can rejoin these together. Make sure the top one is selected, and then hold shift and click on the bottom one, and now you can join it. So you can, if you have your mouse, you can do the shortcut Control J. You have your mouse in this portion of the program, and then again shift, click on the first one, hold shift, and then have your mouse in this part of the program, click delete. Now you want to reselect it and do Control C or copy, so I'm just going to use the menu for this, copy objects. You want to open a new instance of Blender, and now you want to extract the FPK. So the FPK you're going to extract is the one from the dummy folder, so I'm just going to show you here. This is actually the conversion folder that I showed you earlier, that was empty, and I put everything into it. And if you go into hashed wind, and then there's a FPK file here. So this is this directory that I'm going through now, and you want to open the FPK file. And you know you've done this correctly because it will load the textures. If this face is purple or pink or white, it means that you've forgotten to copy the textures from your conversion folder. So you've forgotten to copy these textures into the source images folder here if you forget to do that. But I've done it correctly, so you can see it here. So you wanna click on him, and then press A, and then Control J to join all the meshes into one. Now here you can make a mistake and accidentally press delete immediately, but that will delete the face high and hair high meshes. All you actually want to do is click off like this, click back on it and delete it. So when you delete it, you actually keep these mesh groups. Now you can remember you had this copied, you can paste this in. You always need to delete, it will create two versions if you've done this correctly. There's this one and this one, so you want to delete the second one. Now that you've deleted it, you can go into edit mode, press A, and then separate it by material. Select the hair. There's two mouth meshes. So the way I do it is select, there's one that's slightly rounder, so there's one that looks like this, and there's one that looks like this. I select this one first, and then Control, because you want the light orange one to be the less rounded one, and Control J. I don't know if it makes a difference, but that's just how I do it. And then you want to rename these. So the head mesh is head. This is the head shell. You don't need to name these the same way I do, but I always do it the same way so that I have consistency and I know which ones are which. and then I don't need to look at the model when I'm assigning the textures, which helps as well. This is the occlusion. This is hair. Sometimes you'll have one called hair transfer. So remember how I said if there's a beard, it might be in a separate mesh. And then when you separate by material, it will create two meshes here. So you'll have one called hair and then one hair transfer. And then they'll have different material properties when you do it later. Now you want to assign the textures. So you want to delete the delete the materials, the default materials. And here I can just quickly assign this by removing the ones I don't need and giving them the correct materials to make sure that it's rendered properly. So I'm just going to do this quickly. The head is called Fox Skin Mat, and then head shell has head shell. It's pretty much just following the naming. This is why I named them the way I do. It's also the way I learned it through the Ukiyo tutorial. There we go. And now you can group them, or you can assign the material first. I'm just going to assign the material. And they're all face apart from the hair, which is obviously hair. So assign these FMDL groups, or modifiers, sorry. And then head is also face, head shell is face, and oral is face. Okay, now you can group them. So just remember how you click on one and hold shift. Now while holding shift, you can do this. If you don't hold shift, you can't do this. And then you can press control to select individually instead of a group. I'm going to move this here, and then click on here, and while holding shift you can drag it. So that's it for this part. Now make sure you set the default enumerators, and sometimes you get this error, which is annoying. I don't know why this happens, but sometimes it happens. Usually it will let you set the default enum. If not, it's okay, just export, go back to this menu. And there we go. Now once you've created the FPK file, you need to start a new scene and then re-export it, import it back in. And now you can set the default enumerator, which it didn't let you do before. I don't know why it does that, but sometimes it does. So you just need to select one of the meshes, and when you set the default enumerator for one, it sets it for all of them. So it should do this. There you go. Now it lets you do that. And now press tab. Takes you into edit mode. Everything should already be selected. Mesh, shading, smooth edges. Sometimes there'll be some that remain and you need to go into edge and then clear sharp, but usually it just takes it out all in one go. Press tab to go back into object mode. Now you want to open the eyes. So these eyes are hidden by default, but because you delete the eye models from the PSK model from eFootball, you need to move these. So we're going to use the moving tool using G, and if you do G freely, you can just move like this. However, if you do GX, you can move it up and down. GZ moves it up and down the Z axis. GX moves it left and right. And the way I do this is that I line up the outside. So you see the outside lines, you can line this up with the edge of the eyeball or edge of the eye like this. So I know that I need to move this over a little bit so it's lined up. And then I need to move it up like this. Again, do the same for this one. Move it over so it lines up correctly. And you kind of need to be able to judge how far up and down you need to move it, but moving it left and right you can do by lining up the edge of the lines by the corners like this. And then if you press 1 on the numpad and then press up 3 times, you should be able to look at it like this. And the way I move the eyes back with GY is to hide the iris like this. Hide the eye again. This one needs to be moved back a bit, so you can see there's a little bit of showing just on the eyelid. And this should mean that they're far back enough so it doesn't clip the eyelid when he blinks. And the last thing you need to do is delete the appropriate UV maps and vertex colors. So for head, you delete the normal map and you delete both vertex colors. Head shell, just delete the normal map. Go into animation, select this, and then click on vertex paint. Hold Z and then go into solid mode. Now select the color black. Shift K. The oral map. Go here, just delete normal. Delete these. It's gonna split the mesh for the eye parts for some reason. I don't know why it just does. Delete normal map. Delete the edit and the animation vertex colors. For eye line, you just delete the vertex colors, so you leave these two UV maps. And then for eye occlusion, you do delete everything but UV map. And then for hair, delete the normal map. If there's a hair transfer mesh as well for the beard, you just leave everything. And then you need to go to animations and then vertex paint. So as you can see, this is what we could have deleted at the start, or we could have colored it white at the start. If you want to keep this like this is fine. If the model in-game doesn't look too bad. If it does look bad, you just need to make it black. So I'm going to show you both. So if you go back into object mode, the purple vertex colors is the default eFootball animation, but you can get rid of it if it's bad. And now you want to rename or relink it, sorry, to the ID. So this is 1135514. Click this to relink. Now export the hair, export the face, and export this, the PES diff bin file. When you do this for the first time, you need to make sure this is ticked, convert DDS to FTeX, and then create, because the game reads FTeX files. So if you don't convert it, then the game won't have any textures to read and you're going to have a grey face in the game. So the first time you do this, you need to convert it to create these texture files in the FTeX format. And then create FPK. So this is going to export the FPK file here. And once it's created, copy. Now I'm going to go to my face directory, face root of Cider. So I'm going to paste it in. Now this player had no face, and he should have a face now. As you can see, his hair's bouncing up and down. I also need to fix the eyes a little bit, so we're going to do that after, but just to show you the hair animation. Some people like it, however, in the actual game, if he's jumping up and down or something, it might clip, which will look pretty bad. So that's what it looks like. I'm going to get rid of it because I don't like it, but that's just your decision at this point. Go to the vertex groups and let's go to texture paint, not texture, sorry, vertex, and just do Shift K to color it black. Now you can re-export it. I also need to move the eyes because they were in the wrong place. I'm going to go back to material preview. So I'm going to move this over a little bit like this. And you can kind of tell it looks weird here as well. So for most players it'll work. Some of the Asian players, because their eyes are slightly different shapes, it won't work so well. That's why you need to move it after you've checked. If you press GX, you can actually see if the iris lines up with the pink line. So you can see here that his left eye is slightly higher. So we're going to move it down a bit like this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but obviously the more symmetrical it is, the better it looks. And then export face. This is a process. You can basically do this as many times as you need to. And once it's done, we're just going to copy this again. Copy. And go back to the face root, overwrite it. As you can see, the eyes look better and he blinks correctly. And this is pretty much it. After, if you want to get rid of the DDS files, you can do that. Because if you have a lot of faces that have DDS files, they actually take up a lot of space on your computer. So I just deleted those. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just going to end up uploading this to EvoWeb. But that's basically how you convert the faces. Thanks for watching.